And I would like to introduce our first speaker, who we call the face of our agency here at NJHMFA. And this is Jesse Crawford. He's our lender outreach and marketing coordinator.
Thank you, Cynthia, and thank you all for joining us tonight. This is the last one of our series since we've been doing these every Tuesday and Thursday since the end of April. So I have a host of information to share with you all tonight. And without further ado, I'm going to get started and share my screen. Let me minimize this. And full screen for this. Again, my name is Jesse Crawford, and we are the New Jersey Housing Mortgage Finance Agency. And tonight, I want to talk to you about maximizing first-time homebuyer opportunities with down payment assistance. A little bit about us. The New Jersey Housing Mortgage Finance Agency provides affordable home ownership and housing opportunities to New Jersey residents. We are a state housing finance agency based out of Trenton, New Jersey, and we respond to the needs of residents here in the state by implementing creative programs that establish alliances that funds affordable mortgages for first-time home buyers and down payment assistance, and we offer our programs through a network of approved lenders. Just a little bit of statistics. According to the National Association of Realtors, first-time home buyers make up 33% of all home buyers. Now, this is the largest share of this is between the age group of 25 to 34, which accounts for 54% of all home buyers. Additionally, 71% of all first-time home buyers were previously renting an apartment or a house. Now, studies show there are leading barriers why folks think purchasing a home is outside of their reach or is not something that they can attain. And those barriers typically are just not having capital or funding for the down payment and closing costs. In some cases, just qualifying for a mortgage, the amount of debt they might currently be carrying. Job security is another issue, whether or not you're even ready to settle down in one place for a period of time. And what we're seeing today, which the realtor on the line can attest to, is there's not enough inventory currently across the country, not enough homes for sale. So these are just some of the barriers. And according to this particular graph, 68% said affording a down payment was their leading barrier. Qualifying for the mortgage came in at 53%. The amount of debt they were carrying came in at 50%, and job security rounds out at 39%. Additionally, nearly 9 in 10 low-income renters said that having money for down payment and closing costs was a major obstacle for them. Middle-income renters, 72% of them also indicated this same challenge. And of these groups, 62% of low-income and 39% of middle-income renters considered having funds as a major obstacle to home ownership. And we're going through these statistics to let you know what the obstacles and the roadblocks are. But at the end of the day, we have a solution to help many on this webinar today with these roadblocks and obstacles. Here's a snapshot of expenses that prevent folks from being able to buy or save money to buy a home. Student loan debt. 56% of first-time home buyers said this was a major issue. Credit card debt comes in at 34%, car loan at 36%, childcare expenses, healthcare costs, and others. Now, a little bit about our mortgage programs. We have two foundational mortgage programs. We have our first-time home buyer mortgage, and we have our homeward bound mortgage program. They're both 30-year fixed-rate government-insured mortgages, meaning that the mortgage interest rate will not change for the life of the loan. And we dictate what the interest rates are going to be each and every day. We determine those rates by market conditions and other factors, and we determine what the rates are going to be, not our lenders. The lender will never change the rate or adjust the rate. The rate is going to stay the same for each and every applicant that is approved for our mortgage. And we actually send these rates out each and every business day by 10 a.m. to all of our approved lenders. Now, the first-time home buyer mortgage, here are the requirements. You must purchase and occupy a residential home in the state of New Jersey. You must qualify and meet all requirements to obtain a mortgage, first mortgage to one of our participating lenders, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. The borrower must be a first-time home buyer. Now, first-time home buyer is defined as someone who has not had ownership interest in their primary residence during the previous 3 years. Qualified veterans do not need to be first-time home buyers, but must not own another primary residence at closing. So if you're a qualified veteran and you currently own a home and you're looking to buy a new home, you do not need to be a first-time home buyer, but you're going to have to sell your current residence prior to closing on your new residence. Additionally, the minimum credit score for our mortgage and down payment assistance is 620 or greater. And the debt to income ratio is 40 and 47. Now, 2 months monthly reserves are required of the monthly mortgage payment, and I'll talk about that in detail a little bit later. And there are income limits by household. Income limits is determined by every adult in the household 18 or older who is not a full-time student. So even if they're not on the mortgage, if they live in the house and they're working, their income is going to be counted as part of your household income. I'm going to click on this particular link to show you what the income limits are for union, 1 to 2 family household, $106,000 even. 3+ family household, the income limit is $121,900 maximum income. And lastly, on this particular slide, borrowers may not possess enough liquid assets to close the mortgage loan at 80% loan to value or less. Simply put, if you have more than 20% to put down on the home that you're looking to purchase in liquid assets, and when we say liquid assets, we mean it's sitting in a checking account, it's in a savings account, or it's under your mattress or some other place, and it's not in a retirement account of any kind, then you are going to qualify for our low interest rate mortgage and down payment assistance. Now, the homeward bound mortgage, a lot of similarities to the first-time home buyer mortgage, but some distinct differences, and I'll point those out. Again, the borrower must purchase and occupy a residential home in New Jersey. You must qualify for a first mortgage through one of our participating lenders. You must be a first-time home buyer, defined as someone who has not had ownership interest in their primary residence during the previous 3 years. Qualified veterans, again, do not need to be first-time home buyers, but must not own another primary residence at closing. And the homeward bound, there are higher debt to income ratios compared to the first-time home buyer. So FICO score is 620, just like the first-time home buyer. But as you can see here at the top of this slide, the maximum debt to income ratio is 40 and 50. So theoretically, the thought process is this: if you don't qualify for the first-time home buyer because you're carrying too much debt and your back-end ratio is 47%, meaning no more than 47% of your gross monthly income can be applied to your housing expenses, meaning your mortgage, which includes principal, taxes, interest, and insurance, and all your monthly minimum payments that show up on your credit report. It can't exceed 47% for the first-time home buyer. So if you're over that and you're within the 50% limit, then you can qualify for the homeward bound mortgage program because it allots for higher debt to income ratios. Just like with the first-time home buyer, 2 months of reserves are required of the monthly mortgage payment. And there are income limits for the homeward bound, just like the first-time home buyer, but they're a little bit different. And I'll click on it and show you what they look like. And here, as you can see, for Essex, Morris, Sussex, and Union, the maximum household income limit is $148,400. So almost $20,000 different from the first-time home buyer. So again, if you don't qualify because your income limits are too high for the first-time home buyer, or your debt is too high for the first-time home buyer, you could potentially qualify for the homeward bound mortgage program, which allots for higher income and higher debt to income ratios. And as before, again, may not possess enough liquid assets to close the mortgage loan at 80% loan to value or less. Now, really quick, I want to talk about urban targeted areas. And this is primarily for folks who may be on this particular webinar who are existing homeowners and wondering how they can take advantage of our programs. Now, urban targeted areas are designated by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And each and every county has designated urban targeted areas. Now, here's the catch. Borrowers, or buyers, I should say, of homes located in urban targeted areas or qualified veterans do not need to be first-time home buyers. Again, do not need to be first-time home buyers if they purchase in an urban targeted area. But the caveat is that you must not own another primary residence at closing. So simply put, you are a person who is on this Zoom webinar, and you currently own a home, but you want to buy a new home and take advantage of our down payment and low interest rate mortgage. You can do that by purchasing in the urban targeted area, but you must sell your primary residence prior to closing on your new home. Now, the other benefits for urban targeted areas, purchasing in urban targeted areas, there are higher income limits permitted and higher housing purchase price limits are permitted. Now, the link that's on this page and all the links throughout my presentation will be included in the chat function below on your screen. And also, they will be emailed out to you tomorrow. So you'll have all these links and you can go back and review them at your leisure. But I want to show you our site evaluator. And this link will take you to the web page where you can actually type in the potential address of the property that you're looking to purchase. And it will return values over to the left here on the legend here to let you know whether or not that property is indeed in an urban target area tract. If it is, and you're not a first-time home buyer, that you want to take advantage of our programs, you certainly can. And this is the way you would find out if that property is located within an urban targeted tract. Now, additionally, as I said earlier, urban targeted areas, basically they're an untapped market because buyers can purchase in these areas do not need to be first-time home buyers and can take advantage of our down payment assistance. Also, you have the possibility of combining other down payment resources with our programs. We have a link here called downpaymentresources.com, located towards the bottom of this particular slide. It is a website that we don't manage at the agency, but we thought it would be important to include. You can go to this website and search for additional down payment resources that you can couple with ours. I'm purposely not talking about our down payment assistance program just yet, because that's the last section of my presentation, and I get kind of happy when I start talking about it. But downpaymentresources.com, you can find additional resources to help couple if you need additional funds to help with your down payment and closing costs. and give you even greater buying power, and hopefully be able to purchase even more home and afford more home. The urban targeted areas have income limits as well. And I'm going to show you what those income limits look like. As you can see here, Essex, Morris, Sussex, and Union, 1 to 2 in the household. The maximum income limit is $127,200,000, and 3+ in the household maximum is $148,400. Additionally, we have a link in here for annualcreditreport.com. If you need a free copy of your credit report from all 3 major credit bureaus, you can get a free copy once a year by simply going to annualcreditreport.com and requesting it. Now, really quick, I want to go through and just give you a side-by-side comparison of the 2 programs. They have a lot of similarities with some distinct differences. They both require a minimum credit score of 620 or higher. The first-time home buyer has lower income limits, whereas the Homeward Bound has a higher income limit. The first-time home buyer has lower debt-to-income ratios. Homeward Bound has higher debt-to-income ratios, and we talked about why on the previous few slides. They're both 30-year fixed-rate government-insured loans, meaning that the interest rate is not going to change for the life of the loan. The first-time home buyer has a lower interest rate, whereas the Homeward Bound has a higher interest rate. And again, the reason why the interest rates are different is because if you don't qualify for the first-time home buyer with the lower income limits and the lower debt-to-income ratios, and the limits have to be raised, the interest rate is slightly higher because of those other options. Now, each and every borrower is required to receive HUD-approved credit counseling. We have on our website at njhousing.gov, there's a link that you can click on to find a HUD credit counseling agency in your county, or you can go to HUD.gov and put in the required search information and find out what counseling agencies are in your area and what services they provide. Upon completing your HUD-approved credit counseling course, you will receive a certificate. That certificate is good for 1 year. It expires in 1 year. The major requirement is that copy of that certificate has to be submitted with your loan package prior to closing on your loan. So it's a major requirement for everyone who comes through our programs for our first-time home buyer mortgage and our down payment assistance. Now, the great thing about both our programs is that you can purchase up to a 4-unit property with either one of these mortgage programs, as long as you occupy one of the units as your primary residence for the required period of time, which is 5 years. So you could conceivably buy a 2-family, live in one, rent the other out. As long as you stay in your unit for 5 years, you do not have to pay back any of the down payment assistance funding that I'm going to talk about in a minute. Here are the requirements for the mortgage. This is what you're going to need. So if you're ready to get started, start preparing these documents here. You're going to need 3 years signed federal tax returns or 3 years transcripts. You're going to need 30-day pay stubs and 2 years W-2s. You're going to need 2 months bank statements. You're going to need 2 months reserves of the monthly mortgage payment. Now, reserves can be in a personal account. It can be gifts from family members or friends, or you can provide statements of your 401k or your pension or some other retirement fund to show that you have the funds available in case of an emergency. You do not need to withdraw them from any of the accounts. You just need to show that you have this money available in case of an emergency. Now, with our loan proceeds or down payment assistance, You cannot use any of the down payment funding to pay down any of your debt to qualify or secure the mortgage. Additionally, in some cases, you may even get money back at closing. You can get up to $3,000 back of funds paid out of pocket, which includes things such as your earnest money deposit, your appraisal fee, your home inspection fee, pest inspection, and even your home buyer's course. Now, this is the happy part of my presentation. I call this the free money section of our presentation. Our down payment assistance program here at the agency provides qualified home buyers with a $10,000 down payment assistance loan to go towards your down payment and closing costs. Now, it's not a grant. It's what we call a forgivable loan with no payments and no interest rate. And our down payment assistance is a sub-program that's coupled with our first mortgage through one of our approved lenders. Again, they're all government insured loans, either FHA, VA, or USDA. Currently, we do not offer any conventional mortgages, but I'm happy to say within the next few months we will. That opens up a host of opportunities for other types of programs that we can provide to the residents here in New Jersey. Very excited about having conventional mortgages through our agency. Now, the caveat for this program, it's a $10,000 flat down payment assistance forgivable loan. And the primary requirement is that once you close on the mortgage, you must reside in the residence as your primary residence here in the state of New Jersey for 5 years. That means 5 years without selling the property, without refinancing, or defaulting on the mortgage. If you adhere to those guidelines, that $10,000 down payment assistance is totally and completely forgiven over that period. If you decide that within that 5-year period that you either going to refinance or cease to occupy the premises or sell the property, then you will be required to pay the down payment assistance back, the $10,000 back in full. It's not prorated over the 5-year period. You would have to pay it back in full. I'm happy to also say that for our down payment assistance and lower interest rate mortgage, you can now use it for new construction purchases. It wasn't always like this, but now you can purchase a new home. You see a new development going up and you want to get in on it, you can get pre-qualified for our mortgage with down payment assistance and put in your offer on one of the newly constructed homes coming up in the area that you're looking to purchase. But it has to be your primary residence here in the state of New Jersey for 5 years after closing. Now, you could be moving in from New York, you could be moving in from Connecticut or any other surrounding area, any other place in the country, as a matter of fact. But you have to reside here in the state of New Jersey as your primary residence for 5 years after closing. The other great thing I touched on earlier is that borrowers can utilize other down payment resources to couple with this $10,000. And in some cases, if the seller of the home that you're looking to purchase offers seller concession, you can couple the seller concessions with the down payment assistance for even greater buying power. And in some cases, you may not need to bring any additional funds out of your own pocket at closing at all. The eligible properties must be located in the state of New Jersey. I've been saying that over and over. It's a major requirement. Must be your primary residence here in the state of New Jersey for 5 years. Type of property: single family home, condo, townhome, manufactured home, even a mobile home, but it has to be on a fixed foundation. Can't just wheel it from town to town. You got to have it sitting on a fixed foundation. And you can purchase up to a 4-unit property in which 1 unit must be occupied by you as your principal residence here in the state of New Jersey. We touched on HUD-approved credit counseling. Here is the link on this particular page, which will be included in the chat and in an email sent to you all, so you can locate housing counseling agency, so you can complete this aspect of the requirement. You can do this beforehand, before qualifying for a mortgage. You also can do it during the middle process, after you've been qualified for a mortgage, but it has to be done prior to closing, so you can provide that certificate with your closing package. Now, we have a guide here that I want to share with you all. This is our Road Home New Jersey guide. This is an invaluable resource for everyone that's going through the home buying process. This guide is a PDF file that we also have in hard copy. If you'd like a copy mailed to you, simply email me and I'll give you my information at the end of this presentation. I can have it sent to you, or you can simply download it by way of the link on the page and keep this on your desktop, on your computer. It's a valuable resource for anyone going through the process. It walks you through step by step. It's owning a home right for you, the cost of home ownership, home buying counseling, how to get pre-qualified, all the way through home inspection, preparing for closing, and what happens during closing. And the great thing is that it has calculator resources, so you can learn how to calculate your mortgage, understanding what your mortgage consists of, launching your home search, how to make an offer, how to find a realtor, inspection. And the great thing also is at the end of this guide is a glossary of terms. So if you hear a term that you're not familiar with, you can flip to the back of this guide. The term will be here. It'll give you a general explanation of what it is, and you have a better understanding of the process. Great resource. I implore you to download it and keep it on your desktop or keep it handy. Now, I talked about our approved lender list. We have about 50 to 60 approved lenders on our approved list. And if you're someone on the call who's anxious and ready to get pre-qualified, you can simply reach out via this link. Let me share this. And this takes you to find a lender on our website. You basically will fill out the lender request form here, put in your email, last name, all your pertinent information, whether or not you need down payment assistance, what type of meeting you would like, whether your preferred language is English or Spanish, and we will then send your information to 3 of our top lenders who will reach out to you to help you get pre-qualified and help you get your file approved and get you to closing. And if you would like a downloadable, printable list of our participating lenders, at the bottom of this form, there's a link, and it will give you all our approved lenders with their telephone numbers. It's possible if you're already pre-qualified that your lender is on our list. And if they're not familiar with our program, simply call the number on this particular lender list and let them know that you're already pre-qualified, but you want to include the down payment assistance from NJHMFA to help you with your down payment and closing costs. And then they will then underwrite your loan to include our down payment assistance. If you have a lender that you're currently working with, that you're pre-qualified with, and they're not on our list, and you still want to take advantage of our down payment assistance of $10,000, you can simply have them reach out to us at sflenders@njhmfa.gov. We will then work with them to get them approved and on our list. It usually takes about a week. And again, I tell folks who are looking for resources to help them with their purchase, if you need the down payment assistance and you have a lender who is reluctant to sign on with us, then simply choose another lender that's on the list, because at the end of the day, it's about you and the resources available to you to help you purchase your home.
Right, yeah. And he can just do something to him because he.
Okay, that was weird. And that concludes my presentation. My information is on the screen. My name is Jesse Crawford. If you'd like to reach out to me, email is the best way to reach me. But if you want to call me and leave me a voicemail, and I will return the call. We're not back in the office as of yet. Email is the best way to reach me. So any questions that you might have, any concerns, don't hesitate to reach out to me. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we're going to open it up for any questions that you might have.
Great, thanks, Jesse. Great presentation, as always. I do have one question in the chat.
Mhm.
And this is, after applying, how long do you have to gather your information and get it to your lenders?
Well, typically, the process works, you want to first get pre-qualified. And when you get pre-qualified, they're going to ask you for some basic information to determine an estimate of what they can possibly loan to you and how much home you can actually purchase based on your credit score and your credit history and your gross monthly income. And then from there, your lender is going to work with you to let you know, I need documents by X, Y, Z. If they tell you they need it in 5 days, give it to them in 3. The sooner you give all the documents that are required of you, the sooner you can get approved, get your commitment, and move the process along to closing on your home. So again, my rule is if they ask for it in 5 days, give it to them in 3. If they ask for it in 10, give it to them in 5. The sooner you give that information, the better it is. This way, there's no issues where you haven't provided the documents that are required, so it doesn't hold up the process. Because there's a lot of moving parts. A lot of folks have to do their job to get you to closing, and your only job is to provide whatever they ask from you, no more, no less. I tell folks, as a loan officer, only give what's asked of you. Don't give no more and no less. If they ask you for 2 months pay statements, give 2 months. Don't give 6. Don't give 8, because you can shoot yourself in the foot, believe it or not, during the process. So whatever they asked of you, give exactly what they asked of you. I hope that helps.
Great, thanks, Jesse. We have more questions coming in, but I see Diana has her hand raised. Diana, feel free to unmute and ask your question.
Okay, I was wondering, is there an age limit to buy a house? I mean, I'm 75, can I do it if my credit is 620 or more?
You gotta get it shut down. No, ain't no age limit. No age limit. No kind of limit. No limit. Okay?
Thank you, thank you.
Sure. Okay, next question. I am a teacher and wanted to know if your organization works with the Good Neighbor program through HUD.
I get this question all the time. We used to have a program for teachers and police officers in particular. That program is defunct, and I get the question almost every other week. And I put in the request that we need to bring something back similar, because it's a major request and it was so successful. But as of right now, we don't have anything like that, but you still can take advantage of what we have through our down payment of $10,000 and our lower interest rate mortgage.
Great, thank you. Good questions. Ann Bailey says, thank you so much for this webinar. I have a question about employment history. Like most Americans, I was furloughed most of 2020, was on maternity leave January to the middle of May. Are there leniency for those affected by COVID, and are the requirements still the same as far as 30 days of pay stubs?
I generally do believe that requirement of 30 days pay stubs is still the same. But to be honest, you need to speak with a lender and share your situation with them, and they can guide you through this process and let you know if indeed you're ready to purchase now, or you may have to wait a little longer to qualify. But you should speak to a lender, at least get a preliminary assessment of what your situation is, and see if you're purchase ready now, or need to put it off just for a short period of time until you're ready. I even tell people that when their credit is not quite in order yet, not to get discouraged, still speak to a lender. They can tell you what you need to do to become credit ready to purchase a home. And if you're not ready now, it might take 3 months, it might take 6 months, but at least you know and you have a game plan.
Right. Great. Thanks, Jesse. Next question. Can Lyft and Uber wages be considered as employment funds?
My understanding with Lyft and Uber, you are a 1099 employee. As long as you can prove income over the period of time, then that's considered income. And they're going to look at your taxes. And I also tell folks, if you're a waiter or waitress, it's important that if you're looking to buy a home, you have to think in advance. Obviously, the way our tax code is, you want to write down as much as you can or show as less as you can so you pay less taxes. But if you're looking to purchase a home, you have to show income to show that you can afford that mortgage over a period of time. So you have to report your tips. You have to report your income as a waiter or a waitress or someone working at the casinos, things of that nature.
Great. Thank you. A few more questions, but I do see Tamiko Herbert. Your hand is raised. Feel free to unmute and ask your question.
Okay. Hi, good evening. Thank you.
Hi, how are you?
Living the dream, Jesse, living the dream. Let me see. The question that I have is for the first time home buyer and the homeward bound mortgages, the criteria was you got to have a 2-month mortgage reserve, you mentioned?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now in this circumstance, there's going to be 2 buyers. So would that go into like we both would have to show separately 2-month mortgage reserve or combined? If you understand what I'm saying.
If you're purchasing together, collectively, 2 months of the mortgage payment has to be shown in an account. It wouldn't be 2 months for each person.
Not 2. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay.
Whoever's the borrower or co-borrower, collectively, you have to show 2 months monthly reserve.
I understand. Thank you.
No problem. Great question, though.
Thank you.
Sure. Another question we have is the 40/70 inclusive of gross monthly, and do they factor student loans into this calculation if they are in deferment and looking to be forgiven?
Great question, and we get this almost every webinar. I would have been surprised if we didn't get that on the last one. The way the government works, they're going to factor in 1% of your student loan debt as a monthly payment and include that as part of your debt to income ratio. 1% of that amount.
Great, thank you. Another question, do you know when the down payment program will be available for conventional loans? I'm pre-qualified, but it's a conventional loan.
In about 2 months. I don't have the exact day, but we would have had it earlier in the year had COVID not hit. So we had to put it on the back burner. But I would say in about 2 months, maybe even sooner. But just keep checking our website. We're going to have major announcements when it does hit. And again, it's a game changer for us and the residents here in the state of New Jersey. Because even though it's conventional, the down payment requirement is still 3.5%, not 20%. And there'll still be down payment funds available. So that's a win-win for residents here in the state of New Jersey.
Right, yeah, that'll be great. The next question from, I don't know if I'm saying the name correctly, I'm sorry, Tilzy LZ. I didn't quite understand the question you put in the chat. If you want, feel free to unmute. You said that to me directly. Um,
Okay, my question was, I'm sorry, sometimes texting and, does what it wants to.
that's fine.
The question was, if the other person in my home, I know you said you count all the adult income in the home. If the other person's income in my home is currently in a bankruptcy, will that affect the application if the application is in my name?
No, they're not on the mortgage, and that's not a problem.
Okay, all
Not a
right.
problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sure. Great question. From Lisa, I went through this process in 2018, couldn't find anything in Hillside, and taxes are high in Hillside. I tried to contact La Casa in Newark to enroll in the class, but no response. Do you know if they are still offering the class? Do you communicate with other agencies? As it was very frustrating for the home buyer class.
Who was that, Tim?
It was La Casa.
No, who asked the question?
Oh, Lisa Davis.
Lisa, since COVID hit, most of the classes are done online. You don't really have to show up in person. We have a number of counseling agencies that have their programs all done online, and you can do it at your leisure, print out your certificate, and you're good to go. Some of them have a nominal fee. Others, it's actually free. You shouldn't have to worry about getting your counseling done, because there's more than enough online for you to be able to do it in a matter of 2 hours or so.
Yeah, that definitely makes it easier now that they're doing it that way. There's other questions I have in the chat. Does anyone else have a question that you want to
Yes,
unmute?
this is Ms. Ozzie. I did have one more question.
Sure.
I currently have my score. I know it did show that you need at least a 620 score. My score is higher than 620. I'm not exactly sure what it is right now, but I'm in the process of paying off credit cards in order to raise my score, but they're not all completely paid off. Will that affect me even though my score is where it needs to be?
No, and what you have to understand about credit, and some folks make the mistake thinking that if they pay off a credit card and close it, that's going to help them. That's actually going to hurt you. So if you're going to pay it off, leave it open. Pay it off, leave it open, and let it cycle to help increase your credit score, because you want to keep your credit utilization at around 30%. I know it's hard, but if you keep it around 30%, it affects your credit score in great ways, where it will increase that score dramatically over the period of 30 or 40 to 60 days. So if you're going to pay it off, that's fine, because you're lowering your debt. But keep that account open if it's a revolving account. Don't close it. Once you close it, that's actually going to affect your credit score, and it's actually going to drop.
Okay, thank you, because I was thinking about closing some of them, but not all of them.
You better not.
Thank you.
All right.
That's great advice, though. I didn't used to know that either. It's pretty interesting how that all works.
Can I ask a
Alita?
question?
Yes.
It was a follow-up to my earlier question that I asked about the HUD program they used to have for teachers. You said that they're going to bring it back. Is that what?
We no longer provide that program.
Oh, you no longer provide the
Right.
good neighbor. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
There's another one in here. So if a married couple applied collectively for the mortgage, are the credit scores averaged together, or will both persons' scores average separately?
Well, the way the mortgage company looks at it, they're going to run the credit report for the couple to get individually, and you would think whoever has the higher score, that's the score that they're going to use, but it's the other way around. I don't know why, but it's actually the other way around. But the great thing about our program, you need a minimum of 620. It doesn't matter if you got a 700, an 800, a 750, it doesn't matter. You're going to get the same interest rate as somebody with 620. That's the great thing about our program. It's the same across the board. And typically, you got to understand, normally when you have a higher credit score, you pay less for whatever you're buying or whatever credit you're getting. When you have a lower credit score, you pay more. For our program, it's the same for everybody. It's a level playing field for everyone. Same interest rate, whether you got 620, 700, same interest rate.
Good question. That's all the questions I have in the chat. Does anyone else have questions at this time for Jesse before we move on to our next speaker? If you think of anything else, feel free to put it in the chat. We will have more Q&As throughout the webinar, so just keep them in mind. But for now, Jasmine, if you're ready, I'm going to turn it over to Jasmine Clausen Swar. I'm hoping I'm saying that right, Jasmine. She's our realtor from Remax First Realty, and I'm going to copy and paste her contact information. She's also got Instagram and Facebook. I'm going to put that in the chat now. All right, Jasmine, thanks for coming on for us. I'm going to hand it over to you now.
Hi, good evening, everyone. How do you do? I hope all is well. And I want to first say thank you for having me and spending your time here today. I think it's pretty empowering that as a group we can come together, share information, and never hesitate to contact me. And my main topic today would be why choose me as a real estate agent. And not only why choose me, why should you choose a real estate agent? So first reasons, why should you buy? I believe in firing your landlord. Even though I am a landlord and I help a lot of landlords, becoming your own landlord definitely is a game changer because now it's your rules. You're no longer renting, you're investing your own property, your own money into your own property instead of investing into someone else's property. So that's definitely my first standpoint. And hiring a real estate agent doesn't cost you anything. A lot of people, I get this question a lot, and it surprised me because I didn't know how the buyer thought of the question, but now I understand. When you hire a real estate agent and they buy a property from you, the seller of the property is paying them. So you don't have to pay a real estate agency or a real estate agent to buy a property. The seller pays you. The benefits of purchasing a property, along with building equity, tax and interest rate tax deduction with your tax returns, doing whatever you want in your home, and choosing your tenants. And with a property, you can list, sell, or refinance, pull cash out. There's many different opportunities that you're able to do when you purchase a home. So when it comes to building your credit or needing credit repair, Jesse is right. A lender would be able to look at your situation without obligation. A lender will be able to look at your credit report and tell you what you need to do in order to improve your score. And they do that without cost. So it's extremely beneficial speaking with the real estate agent and the lender and finding out all your resources and your options. Even if you're not ready now, the plan is to be ready, become buyer ready, become buyer savvy, and of course, most importantly, becoming informed. I believe, and we believe, the best client is a well-informed client. Once you buy, for example, if you buy a property from me and you need help renting out your units, I will help you. I know the renting process extremely well. As real estate agents, it's our job to completely screen the tenants when it comes to landlord verification, eviction verification, their tenant verification, address verification, employment verification, and many other different information that you would want to know about the tenant before they move into your unit. And in most cases, remember, a seller has an agent that works for them. So you would also want an agent that works for you. So I do suggest, if you are looking to purchase a property, to hire a buyer's agent to specifically find you a property instead of working for the seller. And there is cases where they work for both, which is called dual disclosed agency. But I would always suggest having a buyer's agent is extremely beneficial. And I will also say it is a very competitive market. Back to what Jesse said, there is an inventory. What makes me different from other agents is, although there is an inventory, I dedicate a lot of my time finding inventory. So what does that mean? I'm contacting homeowners daily on finding out who wants to sell to make things a bit easier for my buyers. So that does make me also extremely different from other agents. I'm very knowledgeable on the process of being a buyer's agent and also being a seller's agent. So that will also help you in today's real estate competitive market. Does anyone have any questions?
Thank you, Jasmine. Does anyone have any questions for Jasmine?
Is there any particular areas that
Chica, por
you
favor.
work in, Jasmine, where you notice that there's a little bit more inventory in New Jersey? Or is there, what counties do you service?
Thank you. Well, I service primarily anything 30 to 40 minutes from Union County and Essex County.
Okay.
And what you asked, if do I find it easier in buying in certain areas? Was that your question?
Right, as far as inventory is concerned, like, do you notice in certain areas, wow, there's a lot of houses here, but over in this area, not too many. Are there any particular areas in particular where you're noticing there's more houses?
Yes, I do. I'll be honest. So primarily all my business is in Union and Essex County. I'll give you examples. Elizabeth and Newark, where is my bread and butter. And I'm very thankful for those cities and towns because I've lived, served, sold, and rented in both areas for a long time. And in these areas, it's very competitive, extremely. But I found when clients are looking more towards like west or south, it's still competitive, but not as much. So yes, I do find it a little easier in other areas, like in Morris County, or just going out more west and south. It does become a little easier, but that should not. I will tell you one thing. If you need to stay in a certain area for your family, do it. Don't give up. And I'll tell you why. One of my clients needed to stay in a certain location because of their children's school. I think, I'll be honest, we were outbidded 24 times. And it was worth it. The 25th time, we closed last week, it was their dream home. It was the smoothest closing I've ever had. And they were just like, we're really closing. And I said, we're really closing. And what helped was I knew the listing agent and I called her before the open house. I begged. I said, please, my clients need this house. She gave me the opportunity. My clients bidded correctly and they got the house and they didn't do the open house. So I'm just going to tell you, no matter where you want to be, it's always going to be competitive. And most importantly, don't give up. That's the most important part. It can take you one time, it can take you 50 times, it can take you 24 times, whatever it is. If you qualify, you're ready, you have all these resources, let's keep pushing.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for Jasmine, even in the sense of what role does a realtor play in the whole buying process? Does everyone understand all of that? Any questions? We're here to answer them. I don't have anything in the chat right now, but if anyone thinks of questions, we'll do Q&A again at the end.
Do you mind if
Um,
I add a few things?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so what a real estate agent also does is along with other than finding you the home or helping you with the home buying process, there's many different factors that come into play during the home buying process after you find the home. Home inspection, appraisal, a certificate of occupancy if you're responsible, many different factors that the property may have, open permits, if you need an FHA 203K, the lending process, working with the attorneys. There are many different factors when it comes to a real estate transaction. So finding a real estate agent who is very experienced in all these steps is important, and who's also easy to work with, not only with you, but with the other agents and the attorneys and lenders involved, because ultimately we're all a team to service you.
Great. Thanks, Jasmine. That's very helpful.
Thank you.
We have a couple questions. Why should we look to purchase a property now with house prices so high?
And that's a great question. So everyone has a different opinion on this, and I'll tell you mine. So when I started real estate 13 years ago, it was when the market crashed and prices were super low. I didn't even know what I was doing. I was brand new, and I just saw everything being super low, and but interest rates were, I think, double of what they are now. So it leveled out to the same monthly payment. So I would say it's always going to be something. It's either the interest rate's going to be higher if prices are low, or the properties are higher and the interest rates are low. It evens out. I wouldn't really focus on that. I would focus more about no longer renting, because if your rental payment could be less than what you're paying, if your rental payment can be just about a little more or less or equal than being a homeowner, I would definitely say go for it.
Great. Thank you. One other question. Once you qualify, do you have a time limit to find a home before losing the funding? Or is the funding stable till you purchase, as long as you're working with a broker?
And that's actually a really good question. It all depends on your situation, and the lender would advise us. So the lender would say this pre-qualification, pre-approval letter, and the letter will say a date it expires, and then they will need to revisit the process and look at your pay stubs all over again and your bank statements all over again. But usually if nothing changes in your circumstance, if you're still working, and even if it's not the same employer, as long as you have the 2 years of history and you're still making the same or more, you shouldn't have an issue at all. You're not pressed for time either. It just really depends on your circumstance. And if you need help trying to figure that out, I'm here to help.
Great. Thank you. All right, I'm going to move on to our next speaker. Thank you, Jasmine, so much. I appreciate it. I'm just going to ask if you could stop sharing your screen. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm going to turn it over to Satal Shah. He is with Shah Legal. He's our attorney, Shah Legal Law Firm. I'm going to put his information in the chat as well. He has an Instagram, also a website. I'm going to put that all up now. Thank you so much, Satal, for coming on for us today. And every day, Satal has been on all of our webinars and has a lot of information for you. Thanks, Satal.
You're welcome. Good evening, everybody. Jesse, Cynthia, and everybody out there. I'm the attorney for the program, Satal J. Shah from Edison, New Jersey. I'd like to just start out by saying, whenever you sign a contract, don't be nervous. You have a 3 business day attorney review. Business days means Saturdays and Sundays and holidays don't count. So if you sign a contract on a Friday night, do not panic. You can't reach your attorney on Saturday and Sunday. Monday's the first day of attorney review. I like to call the attorney review period the agree to disagree period. That means you have an opportunity to review the contract with your attorney. Your attorney will make changes and help you understand the contract and answer your questions. This should be no surprise that the seller's attorney will help the seller. Both sides will eventually agree to disagree. And when that time occurs, both sides will sign off on each other's changes. That means your changes are acceptable to the seller. Seller will sign off. Seller finds your changes to the contract as buyer. Well, it finds it acceptable, will sign off. When both sides sign off, attorney review is concluded. That means it's a binding contract and you move forward. If there's any practical advice I can give you today, is that obviously everybody knows how the market is. Everything is flying off the shelf extremely quick. If you like something and you're tired of seeing homes throughout the 50 homes over the weekend, back and forth and getting rejected on offers, if you like something, he or she that finishes attorney review wins the game. That means soon as you sign off on the changes and the other side signs off, the house is yours. The longer you take for that to happen, you're allowing the seller to obtain and entertain other offers to take the home away from you. So the takeaway, if you like something, work on attorney review quickly. People often ask me, how much deposits do I have to put down in the contract? $1,000 is a good faith deposit. Second deposit can be anywhere between 3, 4, 5, 7 to 10 days after attorney review. There is no textbook answer. There is no answer you can look up and put the right amount down. Typically, people would put 3, 5, 7, 10% down. Now, the sellers always want to get the buyer to put up a higher deposit, and the buyers always want to put less. So you have to come to a happy medium. Also, in the contract, people often ask about appliances, what's included, what's not. Stove by law is the only thing included. People think they have a fundamental right to a dishwasher, refrigerator, washer, dryer. No, only a stove. If you happen to want other appliances, take the few minutes and jot down details, whether a dishwasher is new and maybe the brand. I've seen often that people go to a house, they assume the new refrigerator they just bought last week is the one you're getting. It just says refrigerator included. That could be any refrigerator, not the new one that you're assuming that you're seeing. So write down new refrigerator, Kenmore, write the name of the brand, newer, within a couple of years, it's worth it. I've seen so many times before closing, the 1972 Grandma Special shows up, seller switches a new appliance and puts in their very old appliance. All they promised you was an appliance, nothing else. Then home inspections. This is a key topic of inquiry with a lot of buyers. The first question I get asked every day, once I do home inspections, if I don't like the house, I don't like how it is, I get a bad vibe, can I cancel the contract? The home inspection is not based on your personal satisfaction, what your likes and wants and your mood and how you feel. It has nothing to do with it. Once you do the home inspections, you have to afford the seller the opportunity to fix the repairs before you cancel. You can't just say, I don't want it anymore, I want to cancel. The contract allows the seller to fix it. People often ask me, how much can you ask for? What type of repairs? Generally, you could ask for anything that you want, but that doesn't mean the seller has to do it. Seller has to address major repairs. Major repairs is defined in the contract. Major, the definition of major is not controlled by me, nor you, nor anyone else, not your agent, not the seller's attorney or the seller. Major in the contract means heating, air conditioning, electrical, mechanical system, sewer system, mold, environmental, asbestos problems. The roof should be intact, structurally sound, free of leaks. The basement should be structurally sound. Windows should be working. All mechanical systems should be working. These are considered major. Now, if you ask for other repairs and the sellers decide to perform those repairs, you say, thank you. That's a Christmas gift. They didn't have to do it. Now, if they didn't do a small repair, that's not an excuse to cancel the contract because the seller only has to do the major repairs. You could ask the seller for repairs. You may ask them for a credit for repairs or a combination of repair and credit. You may not want the seller to do the repairs. They're on their way out. They may not take the time and the care it takes to perform certain repairs. You may want to control the situation, hire your own contractors after closing and perform the repairs. Also, getting estimates are very helpful in negotiating. Many sellers automatically will say, no, I don't want to do something. It's a knee-jerk reaction. No, I don't want to give you money. But I found from an experience, when you give an estimate, at least for legitimate repairs, it's hard for the average person to actually disagree when somebody puts in writing what the cost and material and labor is for something. If the seller's offering you a credit, for an example, on a plumbing repair, and they offer you $75, how do you know that's reasonable? If you get your own estimate and your own estimate says 700, now you can fairly negotiate. If you end up with $500 or $600, you're close to the number, you may call it a day, agree, and move on. That's why getting estimates are important. So you are educated and you have a better chance of getting a good negotiation that's favorable to you. Typically in the contract, you'll get 4 weeks to get a mortgage commitment. That's a piece of paper from the lender that says, basically, I believe in you. I reviewed your financials, your paperwork, your pay stubs, and I'm approving you for the loan. And I will give you the money on the day of the closing. Typically, that's given in 4 weeks. Now, the attorney will also review title work. You want to make sure there's no lawsuits, liens, or judgments on the property. This has nothing to do with you. Your attorney will do it. It only has something to do with you if you hire professionals or lawyers that don't know what they're doing, or they don't perform real estate. Maybe the lawyer's good at divorce law. There's a lot of detail in a closing that gets missed even by experienced real estate attorneys. So you want to make sure somebody does real estate. Title work, I mean, it's probably common sense to think if you don't pay the seller's water bill or the seller's mortgage, those are liens on the property that have to be taken care of. Those are obvious. Maybe not more obvious would be seller, if they owe child support. If the child support is owed and is in arrears and not paid, that's an automatic lien on the property you're about to buy. In fact, the next 12 months of future payments are lienable on your home that you're about to buy as well. These things have to be taken care of. And people just assume signing a contract, you're dealing with the seller. Anyone can sign the contract. Why not Cynthia, Jesse, and I sign the contract for every house? We're not the owners. How would you know? Once a title search is done, they'll show the record owners. If a name pops up that's not on the contract, we have to bring it to the attention of the other attorney, because you want to make sure it's an enforceable contract, that the right people are actually signing off their legal rights on the home. Your attorney is like your personal bodyguard. Your attorney works for you, vets everyone, make sure you don't get taken advantage of, and it really is an advocate for you. No one else in the process will be a sole advocate for you. Everybody has your interest here and there, but not exclusively yours all the time. That's what your attorney would do. It's a team-oriented approach. Everyone has a common goal to get you to the closing table. So your attorney will work with multiple personalities, multiple people, work with NJMFA, the appraiser, the home inspector, the agents, the other attorney, the seller, all people to get to the closing table. If there's any practical last advice that I would give you in this, is that you always want to pay attention to deadlines. When somebody tells you, or your attorney tells you inspections are due in 14 days, or your mortgage commitment is due in 4 weeks, take it seriously. You'll never really win an argument with an attorney on contractual terms based on dates. So if something is due in 7 or 14 days, your diary should say 3 days before that date. The clients that seem to get into trouble are too busy, they don't pay attention, and they miss the dates. Now you're asking your attorney to be Superman, which they can be, at a cost. Of course, they'll charge you more money and aggravation, but you want to make sure you ask them to extend deadlines. If the home inspector has COVID, he's sick, there's a delay, you can't get the inspections on time, no problem. Inform your attorney, they shoot out an email and say, hey, I need 5 more days, please extend the contingency. Nobody can fault you for ever extending a contingency because you're not waiving your rights. So just remember, with attorneys, the best thing you can do is follow deadlines. Very important. Now, let's assume that we're all ready to close. Your attorney speaks to the title company, the lender, and all parties. May pretend you're closing tomorrow at 2 o'clock. Your attorney would have already gotten back to you today, informing you how much money you had to bring to closing. You'll also do the walkthrough. That means visit the property one more time, either today or tomorrow morning. The goal of that walkthrough is to visit, make sure the property has no damage, visible leaks. Everything is in the same condition when you signed the contract and when you did home inspections. Why? Let's say the heating is out or there's damage. You want to tell the attorney this prior to closing to come to a resolution. Informing your attorney of all the problems after you close, after you gave the money, seller has given you the keys, seller has their money, and telling the lawyer of all the problems in the home. Well, welcome to home ownership. It would be your problem because you own the home. The point of the walkthrough is to visit the property right before closing, so favorable negotiations can take place. The last thing I would like to end with, I leave this for the end. It's an important topic to me, and I believe somebody will thank me later on. So I try to leave this topic for the end of the seminar. Try to hang with me on this last point. Whenever you buy a home, the seller has to provide an inspection of the property for the buyer. Every town can have 1 or 2 inspections. The first one is called carbon monoxide and smoke detector certification. It means the fire department comes, smoke detectors work, it passes, they sign off on a certificate. That certificate the seller has to give to the buyer before closing. The second inspection is a certificate of occupancy inspection, where the building department visits the house. If it passes, no issues. If it fails, they'll tell the seller X, Y, and Z repairs. Seller makes them, calls it township for re-inspection. If it passes, the township signs off on the certificate of occupancy. These are 2 certificates that have to be given from seller to buyer at closing. Every township has one or the other or both. Google it up, call the code enforcement, they'll tell you what's required. Every town will have either the smoke detector or the certificate of occupancy, one or the other or both. Now try to hang with me on this last point. Let's assume today you found a house and you were so excited and you signed the contract and you saw a finished basement. You pictured yourself in the basement. You said, I love the flat screen, big TV with the surround sound speakers, and I like this. And you're so excited you signed the contract. 50% of the population may think, is that finished basement done legally? Is the township aware of it? The other 50% of the population is happy-go-lucky, may never even think to ask. There's nothing wrong. There's no judgment here. Let's assume you're in category A. You are wondering if there is a finished basement with legitimate legal paperwork. Now, let's assume in this town, for the sake of argument, the only inspection is a smoke detector certification, nothing else. That's the only thing township requires. So you ask through your attorney, the other side is a basement legal. The seller provides the only township certificate, which is the smoke detector, and gives it to your attorney. I don't blame anybody in this seminar. You're not attorneys, neither should you be. You rely on your attorney. Your attorney has 2 choices. Your attorney will accept the smoke detector certification, say thank you, but also tell the attorney that's not enough, I need permits. Or the attorney can just accept the smoke detector, move on, and you move on and you close. That would be a mistake. Your attorney would have to realize that that's not enough and you need a permit. Now, the new buyer, let's say 3 years later, you fast forward, you have your smoke detector certificate, you enjoy the home in the basement for 3 years. A new buyer today signs the contract and likes your improvements you made on the finished basement, likes the wall color, likes the flat screen TV, and makes an offer. Now, the new buyer says, I'd like to know if the basement was legal. You provide them with the smoke detector certification. That's a certificate you received from your attorney from the seller 3 years ago. Except this buyer asks more questions. And generally, there are a lot of buyers who ask more questions and go on Google and are much smarter than you. Don't feel bad. There's millions of people smarter than me, millions and millions. This buyer now asks, can I see the paperwork for the basement? You give them the smoke detector certificate and their attorney and the buyer says this is not enough. You call the township and ask for the permits for the basement. Now, the basement, the township says we have no permit. That's another words for saying the township doesn't recognize the basement and it wasn't done pursuant to their inspections or knowledge. Now, the new buyer will ask you to legitimize the basement. Legitimize means you may have to get electrical certifications, a plumbing certification, architectural drawings, or legal fees will be very expensive. Now, you would be very upset because you're now being asked to fix a basement, legitimize it on something you didn't create. You may argue legally, I didn't do anything wrong. I bought the house like this. It's not my responsibility. That defense will work in 3rd grade. That won't work here. You will be forced to legitimize it. and you'll be aggravated spending all this money. It's against my financial interest to generally share this with you and how to solve this problem, because we make a very good living assisting clients everywhere fixing this. First, you can file what's called an Open Records Public Act request. That's Open Records Public Act request. It's a free form. And once you complete it, by law, the township has to provide you with information about the property. There may be no information or whatever it is. Now, once you fill out the form and you see there may or may not be info. Now, if a seller says to you, I have a brand new roof, a brand new water heater, brand new fence, and you don't see any records for these things or permits, you learned today something from me at minimum at this seminar. You know you want to ask the seller for permits because it's on your watch. You want to ask them. Why? Because after the closing and in the future, it's on your watch no matter what. So these are the things you can ask for. And I would also call the old-fashioned way and call code enforcement. And I would ask them in any township, when you call them, are there any permits that remain open? That means a seller did a good thing. They got permits for work that they did, but they never got the township to do a final inspection to sign off. You want, if the township says if certain permits are open to that question, whatever's open, on your watch, you want to tell it through your attorney to tell the seller to close out the permits. This way you don't have to deal with it. These two things I find will minimize your risk of obtaining work from sellers who may have not obtained the proper permits, but will save you time and money in the long run later on by having them perform these tasks before closing. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to email me. I know Cynthia sent out our brochure, Attorney Shah's Guide to Buying Your First Home in English and Spanish. I'm proud to say that that brochure had 6.4 million web hits. It's been on national TV, HGTV. We've been on several shows. Please take a look at it if you want more information. You can also know out there that we service clients in all 26 counties. Don't let a barrier of geography stop us from helping you. We have multiple associates that will travel to help you and assist you to do a closing. No distance is too far. Last thing is, if you'd like to go on our Instagram page, Shah Legal _COM. That's Shah, my last name, SHAHLEGAL _COM. That's Shah Legal _COM. Look for updates on our progress, as is seminar coming up, and there was an affordable housing rules and regulations seminar on there. I want to thank everybody for listening. Have a good night and God bless everybody. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Satal. Such great information always. I do have a question. Are real estate attorneys necessary and affordable?
You're a little choppy, Sin.
Oh, can you hear me now?
That's better.
Okay, thank you for letting me know. A question we have for you, Satal, are real estate attorneys necessary and affordable?
Listen, there's nothing necessary in life. You don't need a doctor, accountant, or lawyer to do anything, really. You can do everything yourself. But just realize one thing. If you use a real estate attorney, then you will minimize mistakes, and you'll get an important thing from my point of view. You will get advice from an attorney who's experienced that helps you prevent making mistakes that first-time buyers make. That kind of experience is what you're paying for, because if you're going to make the same mistakes every other buyer makes, sometimes mistakes cost money, sometimes inefficient. You actually spend more money than to fix a mistake. That's the value. And the other value of a real estate attorney is, at the beginning of the seminar I mentioned, that's your only advocate. You can hire a title company and close. The title company will only worry about title work. They have no other legal obligation to you. The lender, only obligation the lender has is issuing you a mortgage commitment. They're not there to advise you on the survey, title, or anything else. So is it necessary? Nothing is necessary. It'd be a misstatement by me to tell you you have to have one. But should you, and is it worth it? I believe you'll see value for it. And the second part of that question, I'm sorry, you said necessary to attorney, and what was the second part, Cynthia, that?
Necessary and affordable.
Affordable, the attorneys will charge anywhere between $1,000 to like 1,700. I mean, if you say affordable, to me, that's affordable because that's actually, Jesse will tell you, that'll be the cheapest line item on the HUD-1 and the closing disclosure. Your title bills, property tax, mortgage fees, and everything else will be much more than that. So is that affordable? I'm sure you could find somebody within that range, 1,000 to 1,700.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Good question.
Sure, yeah, the great question, great question. Ann Bailey is asking, I have seen listings that say buyer is responsible for all certificates, like certification of occupancy, etc. Are they able to do this?
And you again breaking up. I don't know if you need to move the phone closer to you or you're breaking
Sorry,
up.
can you
Yeah.
hear me now?
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Ann Bailey was asking, I have seen listings that say buyer is responsible for all certificates, like certification of occupancy, etc. Are they able to do this?
Yeah, I can take that one. They are able to do it, but generally that works only in short sales or foreclosures in that situation where they switch the responsibility from the seller to the buyer. I have seen in recent situations, because the market is high, and the sellers are in another planet, they're trying to get the buyers to do this certification, but you have to be very careful. Every township has different requirements, so you don't want to accept that. You might want to push back on it. Is it legal? Of course it's legal. They could ask you to do anything. As a previous person said, should you have a real estate attorney? A real estate attorney will tell you you should push back on it. And one more important point. Let's assume you agree to that and you get the certifications. You want to make sure that your attorney puts in a cap on it. What does that mean in English? If you assume the certifications from the township, what if the township comes back and tells you you owe $30,000 worth of repair? Are you opening up your checkbook to pay $30,000? Your attorney's got to put a cap in there of 1,000, 500, 1,500, which means if the repairs get out of control, you have a backdoor way of legally just getting out of the contract, other than the seller saying to you, no, you agreed to all the certifications and now you're stuck. And all townships are different. Some townships are very strict. Some townships have a blindfold. They may not look seriously at all the problems, or not as nitpicky is probably a better way of saying it, as certain townships are strict. So on a general condo and a single family that you're dealing with, you may not want to agree on the certification process. You might want to push back on that. And then talk to your attorney, maybe negotiate a cap for it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Jesse, this one might be for you. If you change jobs during the process, will you be disqualified for mortgage?
No, it depends on the circumstance. So if you, as Jasmine said earlier, if you are on a job and you get pre-qualified for a mortgage and you start a new job, you previously were able to provide the 2-year work history, there's no gap. As long as there's no substantial gap and your income is where it was or even higher, shouldn't be a problem. If there's a substantial gap and a substantial loss in income, then you may have a issue where you have to go back and reevaluate your loan offering from the lender, whether or not you can afford what you initially were offered.
Great, thank you. Those are all the questions I have in the chat. Are there any other questions? Feel free to unmute. Anybody? All right, if we don't have any, I want to thank everyone for coming on. And I want to thank Jasmine, Jesse, and Satal. Lots of information tonight. Like I said, since you registered for this webinar, you'll receive an email tomorrow that will have a lot of these links within the email that's tomorrow. So you'll receive all of that. And I also put a link in there for our YouTube channel. I'll put it in there again in the chat. And again, this will be in the email as well, but that's where we have all of our recordings for these webinars, including tonight's. Should be in there by tomorrow, end of day. Ann Bailey just chatted. She has one more question. And feel free to unmute. Or she just chatted it. She has a 5-month-old. I can. Oh, you don't have to type in. If you want to unmute, feel free to just talk to us. She's saying she's trying to type fast.
Okay, so I'm sorry. I have a 5-month-old who's screaming, so I didn't want to unmute just then. But piggybacking off of the employment gap, I know Jesse was saying that as long as there's no gap, and I did ask earlier about being furloughed. What I was, I forgot where I was. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna regain my thought because I was trying to get my infant together, and I'll come back. I'm sorry about that.
Were
That's
you,
okay.
was it about maternity leave, being out of work on maternity leave because you had a baby, or?
So I was furloughed from May until December, and then I was on maternity leave from January till this May. So there was a gap. So I don't know how that affects me. And I know Jesse had said, just talk to a lender. But I forget what the question was just now that I was going to ask another question too. And it's lost my mind now. So I'll think of it and I'll put it in the chat. I'm sorry.
And also, if you think of it, just email me. You can email me after this when you get your thought together on it, and I'll respond.
I will do that. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Sure, and I'm gonna just copy and paste that again. In the chat for you. There you go. There's Jesse's email. Anyone else? I don't see anyone else coming on, so I just want to thank you all again. I really appreciate you coming on. I hope this was helpful. Lots of information. So again, you'll get the email tomorrow. Feel free to share all of that information with anyone you know that's looking to buy a home, needs information. Go to our website, njhousing.gov, and we have all of our helpful FAQs and such there that can help you out. Again, Jesse is in the chat. Feel free to reach out to him. But thanks for coming on, and good luck to you all. Have a great evening. Satal, Jesse, and Jasmine, thank you so much.
Thank you all for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Satal.
Thank you as always, Cynthia, Jesse.
Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
everything.
You're
Satal,
welcome.
We really appreciate it.
do me a favor when you get a chance, email me your actual physical address.
Okay, sure.
All right.
No problem. Be well, be safe. Have a great summer, guys.
We're ready.
You too. Hey, Jeff.
Yeah.
And Bailey says, since I was furloughed but received unemployment, would that be considered income?
Unemployment, no, because it's actually going to run out. It has to be permanent income. You can't count
Permanent
unemployment.
income. Okay. Good question. But thank you. I'm glad you got that in. But if you think of anything else, feel free to email Jesse. All right, all have a great night.
Take care, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Sam.
Sure.